Hey everybody, this is Alex Merced from alexmercedcoder.com with a brief video on what is Node.js. A lot of people will use Node to create websites and do all sorts of really cool stuff, but they don't really appreciate what it is. So this is just a real quick video to kind of explain at a high level what's so special about Node.js. Now, Ryan Dahl made Node.js, and he did it by using the V8 JavaScript engine from Chrome. Okay, so every browser, so Mozilla, Internet Explorer, Edge, Chrome, they all have a JavaScript engine. That's basically the core that kind of takes the JavaScript and reads it. Now, he took that V8 JavaScript engine and said, why don't we have it run on the server? So what it does is that when you run Node, you're basically running the V8 server, but there's an event loop. And basically what it does is that it just keeps repeating through the code. It'll look through your code. So basically you'll tell it sort of start here. You'll kind of create this initial file, your server.js or your index.js file. It will then look at the file and see if that refers to any other file. So that's when you do like a require, import, export. And it builds sort of this dependency tree saying, okay, these are all the files that are connected to this. And it's going to run through all the code in all those files, read all the instructions, and when there's something that it cannot finish, it kind of adds it to the list of like to-dos, and then goes back and basically just keeps cycling through the code and creates a sort of endless loop until you decide you don't want to run the server anymore. That's, I guess, a decent quick explanation. That's not the best explanation of it, but that's the idea. The loop is just constantly looking through instructions, and then it just repeats the process. So basically, that's how the asynchronous code works, because basically it's not that you don't have multi-threads where you have two processes running at the same time. It's only one process at a time. But if there's a process that can't complete, instead of stopping, it just goes on to the next thing. And then once it gets done with the list, goes back and checks to see if it's ready to be done now. And that way you can have asynchronous code where you can have sort of different things happening at the same time on a single thread, meaning in a single sort of order of executing processes on the computer. And that's pretty cool. And also just the whole idea of doing JavaScript on the back end wasn't even a thought before Node.js. Before, JavaScript was reserved for doing your code in the browser. And basically you'd have to go learn Ruby or C# or Java to do stuff on the back end. So you would need two languages. And a lot of people did scoff at the idea. It's like, well, I don't know if JavaScript would be good for back end work. But a lot of things happened. The advent of NoSQL databases, the popularity of JSON. So basically JSON, JavaScript object notation, became the more popular way over time of doing APIs because it was just a little bit more succinct, took up a little space, was a little bit easier to work with, and kind of matched pretty well with JavaScript. So with APIs kind of shifting over to JSON, and then suddenly a database structure called NoSQL database, aka MongoDB, where basically instead of a traditional relational database of tables, you have basically collections of data, which are really just JavaScript objects, and then each individual sort of object or entry is referred to as a document. And that just was like a great match for JSON data, because JSON data looks like a JavaScript object. Mongo stores information as a JavaScript object, and what better tool to use to interact with a JavaScript object-based environment than a JavaScript-based backend? So all these kind of technologies kind of converge at the same time to result in Node growing in popularity because it had a real use case with this whole sort of new API norm in Mongo and whatnot. So this is why oftentimes you see Mongo and Node paired up, particularly through Express. But there are other backend frameworks other than Express. There's Koa, there's a few other ones. But yeah, so that's a overview of Node.js and what it brings to the table and why it's so important and why it's so cool. And but yeah, go watch some videos to learn how to use Node.js in your projects. It's really cool.